Could it be that at last rats are starting to flee the sinking ship that is the MAGA Republicans' impeachment efforts against President Biden? It sure seems like it, because a prominent Fox News anchor who just recently was trying to breathe life into the dying story is now publicly calling Republicans out for the fact that they've got nothing on Joe Biden. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we've got a couple of clips to look at in this video. It's going to be a lot of fun, as have most of the Biden impeachment videos, and it's dominated national headlines because, again, as we've discussed, Republicans have suffered back-to-back major body blows with respect to this witch hunt. But to put this particular video in perspective, I want to focus on the guy here, the older gentleman, John Roberts, a veteran journalist of the Fox Propaganda Network, who, like virtually all of them, despite professing to be a hard news journalist, he's not an opinion guy. He's not Jesse Waters. He's not Laura Ingraham. He's not Jeanine Pirro. He's supposed to be straight news. He always has his thumb on the scale for Republicans. This was, and we actually covered this particular clip, but I'm going to give you about 10 seconds of it, where against Jessica Tarlov and outnumbering her 3-1, he still feels the need, after all the bad news that Republicans got about the impeachment effort, he felt the need within the past 48 hours to try to prop them up. Just listen to this for perspective.
Jessica, just to push back a little bit on what you said, you said that everybody who's testified before the committee has said Joe Biden didn't have any involvement in this. Tony Bobulinski testified before the committee and said the only reason any of these international business transactions took place, with tens of millions of dollars flowing directly to the Biden family, was because Joe Biden was in high office. The Biden family business was Joe Biden, period. What do you say?
Well,
and then, of course, she goes on to refute. But again, he felt the need. He's like, listen, Jessica, it can't be that bad. I mean, sure, virtually all of their witnesses have shut their arguments down, but they had one, right? That's how desperate he was. Well, a lot's changed, apparently, in the ensuing, again, 24 to 48 hours. This is the same guy today talking about the same situation, the Biden impeachment inquiry. We're going to play this clip and unpack it together.
Go to Jim Biden, because yesterday in his opening statement, he said the following, in part, I have always kept my professional life separate from our close personal relationship, him and Joe Biden. I never asked my brother to take any official action on behalf of me, my business associates, or anyone else. Earlier today in America's Newsroom, Jason Smith, chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, wouldn't say he was lying, but did say this.
The IRS whistleblowers provided the Ways and Means Committee an email that James Biden was included in that was talking about how they would distribute the profits from the Chinese energy company, 20% to James and 10% to the big guy. He's definitely not telling the truth. It's complete hogwash what he's saying.
Wouldn't call him a liar, but said he's not telling the truth. But here's the thing. So they've got a lot of receipts with Hunter Biden. They've got a bunch of receipts with Jim Biden as well. But so far, there's nothing to connect all of that to the president in any kind of way that looks like it's illegal or even potentially unethical. How much longer can this probe go on before the Republicans have to either put up or move on?
It's a great question, and I think the reason they are suspicious, especially with respect to James Biden, is because you have to look at his resume. He dropped out of college, he opened a couple of nightclubs, and then next thing you know, he is getting a contract for millions from a Chinese energy conglomerate with no energy experience. And that's a pattern with the Biden family. And so I think James Comer and Jason Smith and others are going to continue to pursue this until they have a better understanding of what exactly they were getting paid for and what did these foreign nations see as a benefit for working with both James and Hunter Biden when they had no energy in their experience in their respective fields.
Well, we'll have to watch it. I mean, there's certainly been a lot of calls from Democrats to end the impeachment inquiry, you know, and this 1023 was such a huge piece of them launching this. They threatened to hold the FBI director in contempt to get a hold of the 1023 in which Smirnov ends up making this lie and alleged lie. So
that's a great point. But the FBI, and that's a great point, though, Jackie, the FBI was so resistant to revealing both the source and the information because they didn't want his security, or his safety rather, to be compromised. So that also raises the question, is if this person was so trusted by the FBI for so long, how are we here now?
Yeah.
Well, one more thing.
The bottom line is there's an awful lot of smoke with this, but if you want to impeach the president, you got to find the fire.
Direct link.
Okay. So, folks, that was a lot. And as far as I'm concerned, like if you're a MAGA Republican watching that, that should be like another stake through the heart, right? If your heart even has the surface area at this point for the additional stake, given the number of stakes that have impaled the MAGA Republican argument here. So that was really bad. Now, Carrie Urban did her best. She tried to cheerlead. And, well, there was nepotism. There seems to be evidence of nepotism for Hunter and Jim Biden. They don't seem to be particularly qualified. Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, didn't seem particularly qualified to manage $2 billion from Saudi Arabia. But she doesn't care about that. MAGA Republicans don't care about it. Why can't it just be a case of bog standard Beltway, Washington, D.C. nepotism? And why is President Biden somehow morally or legally culpable for that? He would only be morally or legally culpable for it, number one, if there was a crime, and number two, if he actively engaged to try to facilitate that nepotism. You have no evidence that he did do that. And so Jackie Heinrich, I think that's her name, the John Roberts co-host, I mean, she's pretty unambiguous, like, this ain't it, chief. But John Roberts himself saying, at what point does MAGA, are they just obligated to put up, and he was going to say shut up, or, but put up or call it off? That's a really good question, because they've been doing this now relentlessly for more than a year. The House Oversight Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, the House Ways and Means Committee, 3 primary committees have been investigating President Biden effectively for more than a year, and they've done little else, as we've talked about. The second least productive iteration of Congress since MAGA Republicans took over the House of Representatives since the Great Depression, and the least productive in modern history. So, and at the end, for him to say, listen, you have no evidence that he did something unethical, let alone illegal. And there may be a lot of smoke, but you have to establish a direct link with the president. You failed to do so. And even Carrie Urban, again, who was doing her best to cheerlead MAGA Republicans by proxy, even she conceded, yeah, you need a direct link, and they don't have it. This, to me, reeks, at least for the moment, of rats starting to flee the sinking ship. Now, other bits of information, since we mentioned the president's brother testifying, Democratic ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, Jamie Raskin, said this. He issued a statement. Yesterday, James Biden, President Biden's son, appeared voluntarily before the committee and answered the committee's questions for more than 7 hours. During this interview, he explained repeatedly and unequivocally that Joe Biden has, quote, never had any involvement or any direct or indirect financial interest in his business activities, end quote, and that Joe Biden never took any official action to benefit his business ventures. Quote, yesterday's interview seemed only to corroborate the mountain of evidence that has proven time and time again that President Biden has committed no wrongdoing. For more than a year, this ridiculous investigation has yielded over 100,000 pages and dozens of hours of evidence debunking Republicans' false claims about the president. Instead of facts and evidence, this inquiry has been driven by Donald Trump's demands for political retribution and fueled by disinformation and propaganda pushed by agents with alleged ties to Russian intelligence and Chinese interests. Again, that's Gal Luft for Chinese interests, and also Alexander Smirnov, the most recent, Republican smoking gun / star witness who was indicted. Allegedly, he claims he admitted to the FBI for peddling Russian disinformation. Raskin concludes it's time for Chairman Comer and Jordan to put an end to this flailing and embarrassing impeachment inquiry and start to address at least a few issues that might actually matter to the American people and to America's future. Indeed. Now, I'll also point out that the Media Matters put out a really good report talking about how Fox pushed the indicted FBI's informant story because it supported right-wing Ukraine disinformation campaign going back years now, folks, with various citations going back to a Rudy Giuliani conspiracy theory at the time that Donald Trump was president. Lev Parnas, a major figure, used to be one of Giuliani's right-hand men in Ukraine. He used to be aligned with Giuliani and Trump, has since had an about face and has said, listen, it's all nonsense. It's all conspiracy theories. And he's been saying it for years. As a matter of fact, Lev Parnas publicly volunteered repeatedly, sent letters, went and conducted interviews, and publicly called on Republicans in the House to bring him in for sworn deposition and a sworn interview because he said he would testify under oath and debunk the conspiracy theory. But of course, they wanted no part of it. So to me, it says a lot that Fox they're struggling with this, right? We've done videos where they seem to have, in the initial aftermath, they were ramping up efforts like, oh my God, we got to breathe life. We got to resuscitate this dying conspiracy theory. It looks so bad for Republicans. And now some of the same people who were trying to do it 48 hours ago seem to be publicly saying, oh my God, we just got to let this go. This is a complete joke. I love the embarrassment. I love the chagrin. And again, every single person, Democrats, their surrogates, the mainstream media, everybody needs to be shining a spotlight on this. And as a matter of fact, I think Attorney General Garland should appoint a new special counsel to investigate all of this because it sure does reek of Russian collusion. And since Durham, John Durham or Robert Durham, was appointed by Attorney General Bill Barr under Donald Trump to investigate the origins of the Mueller investigation and Crossfire Hurricane, I think turnabout is fair play. I think we have a ample predicate for Attorney General Garland to do the same. So you know what? We should really investigate the origins of the numerous Republican investigations into Hunter and Joe Biden because perhaps they were wittingly or unwittingly doing the work of a foreign adversary, Russia. Let me know what you think in the comments.